The last couple examples here, we're going to work with piecewise functions. And you have done problems like this before. It's just been a little while. And so I'm going to show you two different ways that you can figure out what these graphs look like. For letter A, both of these are linear. Both of them only have an x. There's no x squared or larger exponent than that. So these are both going to be straight lines. So the way that I teach graphing these in my intermediate algebra classes with the straight lines is just to graph the straight lines and then use your, these are like your boundaries. You can use those towards the end. So this is just one way to do your graphing, and I'll show you this. I'll show you a different way for letter B. So if I were to graph my first equation in red, I would start at +3, and then my slope is a +2. So I'd go up 2 over 1, and I'd fill in my graph as much as I can, and then draw my straight line. And then I would graph my second line, and I'll do that one in green. So that one I would start at 4, and I would go -1. So down 1 over 1, or up 1, -1. So there's my second line. And then we look at our boundaries, and we see that 1 is our boundaries, our changing point. It's like the turning point between the two functions. So where x equals 1, I'm going to go ahead and just highlight that on mine. So that's where my graphs are going to split. So I'm going to keep my red graph, my first line, everywhere where it's less than or equal to 1. So everywhere on this line that's less than, I'm going to keep the red, and I'm going to erase the red, everything that is on the other side up here. So, and I'm also going to do a closed circle at that point because of the equal to sign. So on my red graph at 1, I'm going to keep this closed circle right here, and I'm going to keep everything that's less than, and I'm going to erase everything that is greater than. So I'm going to come over and erase everything on the right-hand side here. So there's one part of my graph. Okay, and then with my other graph at that 1, so on the shaded or highlighted part here, I'm going to have an open circle. So I'm going to need to erase here and put an open circle there. And then I'm going to keep everything greater than. So I'm going to keep everything on this side, which means I'm going to erase everything from my green line that's on the other side. So all of this is going to get erased all the way up. There we go. So then if I erase all my other markings, there's my graph of my piecewise function for the two pieces that it's asking for. So my red line comes up to where x is 1, and it's a closed circle. So here's my x is 1 mark, and I have a closed circle there because it could be equal to. And then my green has an open circle and continues going off to the right. So that's one way to do your graphs when you have a line. You don't have a line if you have a parabola, or if you have multiple pieces. What you can do is make a table of values for each chunk. So here's what that looks like. If we go over to letter B, I'm going to make a table of values. We're going to piece this apart. There's 3 functions here. So we'll do red for 4 minus x squared, and then we'll do 3 plus x, and we'll do x squared plus 1. So my 4 minus x squared is going to be on my graph everything that is less than -2. So I'm going to make a table of values, an XY table, and I like to do mine vertically. So we'll put this one just like this, something like that. So I'm going to start with -2, and then less than that. So I'll do a couple more less than that, -3, -4. And let's see what the Y value should be, because then I can plot those points on my graph. So if I do 4 minus a -2 squared, that's 4 minus 4, which is 0. So that Y value would be 0. And then if I did, let's see, let's go up here. 4 minus -3 squared would be 4 minus 9, and that's -5. And then if we did 4 minus 4 squared, minus negative 4 squared, that's 4 minus 16, negative 12. So this gives me some ordered pairs that on my graph I know is going to be a part of this first equation, and I only did it up to this negative 2. And on my negative 2, I'm going to have an open circle because it's not equal to. So I'm going to go ahead and plot these points. I'm going to put an open circle on negative 2, 0. And then I'm going to put regular points and connect on negative 3, negative 5, and negative 4, negative 12. So negative 3, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then negative 4, negative 12 will be down just a little bit. So I'll have to estimate, which is fine. And this is an x squared, so we know it should look kind of like a parabola, so it should be kind of curved, but it's just a piece of the parabola there. So there's the red part of my graph. Now I can do the blue part. And the blue part is telling me we're going from negative 2 to 0. So for my table for this one, for my x and y, I'm going to go negative 2, negative 1, and 0. This is going to have an open circle with 0 because of my less than. We're going to have a closed circle on the negative 2 because of the less than or equal to. So for these, I'm using 3 plus x. So if I find these y values, 3 plus negative 2 is 1. 3 plus negative 1 is 2. And 3 plus 0 is 3. So these three ordered pairs, I'm going to have a closed circle on negative 2, 1. And then I'm going to have a point, a regular point on negative 1, 2. And I'm going to have an open circle on 0, 3. And that's the piece of that line. And then my last line is going to give me everything greater than or equal to 0. So with 0, I'm going to have a closed circle. And then I want everything greater than that, so I'll just pick a few more. We'll do 0, 1, 2, and 3. That'll give us an idea of what the graph is going to look like. And for this, we're using x squared plus 1. So if I do 0 squared plus 1, that is 1. If we do 1 squared plus 1, that's 1 plus 1, which is 2. If we do 2 squared plus 1, that's 4 plus 1, which is 5. And then 3 squared plus 1 is 9, plus 1, which is 10. So here's my ordered pairs. I'm going to start with a closed circle on 0, 1. So 0, 1, closed circle. And then I'm going to go to 1, 2, 2, 5. So 1, 2, 2, 5, and 3, 10 will be all the way at the top. And again, this is a squared, so it should be kind of curved. And there's with the green, and then I just put an arrow to show it goes on forever. So there's a good way to piece apart and use these x values to help you figure out and graph what that's going to look like.